Hey Realtors, it's Austin Smallwood with SCR to walk you through the upcoming changes to the property disclosure statement that will take effect on June the 1st. So what that means is starting on June the 1st, when you take a new listing, you will need to use this form. You do not need to go back and change the disclosure statement that was done with any previous listings. Those are grandfathered in. This will just be forward looking. So on June the 1st, SCR will have updated this with all of our forms vendors, so there'll be nothing you'll need to do on your end. You'll just need to use the updated form. Mostly I'm going to use this video to show you where the changes are. Of course, you're not to explain this to your client. You can't walk them through the form. You can't answer questions for them, but I want you to be aware of what has changed. That way, if you see an outdated form, you'll be able to better recognize it. With that being said, though, the first change we're going to go over, you actually can explain to your client, and I strongly encourage you to do so. And that is now there's an expanded definition of what no representation means. So in the past, we've gotten calls on the hotline of what does no representation mean? My client just prefers not to give the answer. Is that what they can do? No. No representation is I actually do not have the knowledge necessary to answer the question, yes or no. I don't want to answer no and give you a false sense of security, but also don't want to answer yes and give you and unnecessarily stigmatize my property. I legitimately have no idea. So that's when no representation is appropriate. Now, if I subsequently become aware, I'm required to switch that no representation answer to a yes or no. And selecting no representation does not waive that owner of liability if they subsequently become aware. So no representation is not I plead the fifth. It is I legitimately have no idea at the current moment. But if I subsequently become aware, I have an obligation to update that. So please make sure that you're making that clear to your client. So this first page here, before you get to the questions, you can absolutely walk through this with your client. You should walk this through with your client, explain to them what their responsibilities are, and then reinforce them. Obviously, if they have any questions about any of the questions on the form, they need to solely consult with their attorney on those. So now we're going to briefly go over what is actually changed in the form so you can be aware of it. Questions 5 and 7 previously were one question that we were getting calls on the hotline that was a little bit confusing about when the age of the roof versus the age of the structure. So those questions have been split. There's now a question about the roof age, any roof leaks, repairs, and then the same thing for the foundation. What was the year the structure was built? Were there any repairs on the structure? So those questions were split in questions 5 and 7. In Roman numeral 4, there was an addition to include other pest infestations. We were getting calls on the hotline about, do I need to disclose squirrels, bats, possums, raccoons? Yes, if there's any sort of pest infestation in the house whatsoever, even if it's not a termite, that needs to be disclosed in Roman numeral 4. Number 18, we have included that there's going to be whether or not there's a first right of refusal. We were getting calls on the hotline that those were on properties and were not being disclosed. So that is something that would need to be included and disclosed in number 18 if those exist on the property. And then the bulk of the changes actually occur in questions 22 through 28. This is something the commission worked with us and some environmental groups to try to get better consumer information about this stuff without being overly onerous on the homeowner. So they're going to have some questions about erosion structures, whether in their flood zone, what kind of flood insurance has been on the property, if there's been flood insurance and there's been a claim on it, how much was that, when was the dates, if they didn't run it through flood insurance, what was the amount of damage, and then 28 is about whether or not they've been assessed for a beach renourishment project. Assessment meaning that they've actually been given a bill for that. Then you go to Roman numeral 7. There were some additions to further explain that vacation rentals need to be honored, and those are within 90 days of the interest being recorded with the Register of Deeds office. And to reinforce that point, the commission has also added a checkbox on that last page about whether or not the property is subject to a vacation rental or short-term rental. So that is the only changes that occurred in this property disclosure statement. Again, the only one that you should be explaining to your client is the one on the first page. Please do not explain any of the questions to them, help them answer any of the subsequent questions. They need to do that solely with the advice of their attorney, but wanted to make you guys aware of that. Again, SCR will have updated this with your forms vendor, so there will be nothing you'll need to do, and this will be forward-looking. You do not need to change any of your existing disclosure statements. If you have any questions on this form, please give us a call on the legal hotline, 803-772-5206, or you can email me, Austin at screaltours.org. Thank you.